Alrighty, this is the first roundtable we've had in a while. The holidays went on and just, kind of prioritizing other shows just to get them started because I know that this one is arguably the best idea I've had because it's just so simple and you can't really screw it up. You just kind of have to show up and just talk movies for an hour. So with that said, Jen Kemp, Malcolm Lay, and Jacob Papa West. No need for introductions. Why waste our hour runtime? If you guys don't know us, comment below and we'll get to know you in the comments. So the thing I want to talk about behind the scenes.
The opening.
No, that's not how we do it.
I always have a fun joke to say, but
nope, that's not how we do it over here. It's we know each other. We don't need to introduce.
I just like to say that you think that you invented the round table. Like this isn't a normal thing.
No. I didn't say I invented it. I just said that I came up with this idea for it to be a consistent show, and I've come up with some amazing.
I think
shows
King
throughout
Arthur
the years.
invented the round table too.
No one's ever just hung out and talked about movies before.
Was I supposed to grab my sword for this?
Yes, we three of us have swords, and Jen's here for the ride. So with that said, 3-hour movies. The Batman has been announced that it is a 3-hour movie. So 2 questions I'm going to go around the table. I'm going to ask, what is your thoughts on just generally speaking with the Batman being announced as 3-hour movies, and what is your thought with comic book movies? Because obviously movies in general, some movies deserve a 3-hour runtime, some don't. But the comic book movies, there's not many that have that. You have BVS and Snyder Justice League. You know what I mean? That's pretty much it. So with that said, what are your thoughts on that? So Jen, when you first heard that the Batman is a 3, pretty much just under, but pretty much.
I was gonna add the caveat. I think it's 2 hours 54 minutes if we're gonna be technical. But yeah.
And then credits probably 45.
Yeah, exactly.
Post credit, because they want to rip off Marvel. But I feel you. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
I was actually I was pleasantly surprised because I prefer shorter movies. I like to clock in around 2 hours because I got shit to do. However, with this particular movie, having seen the trailer and everything they're putting out for it, it just looks fucking badass. And at the same time, we know that they're gonna have multiple characters in here that deserve a really good arc. So to have the Riddler there, to have the Penguin there, to have the Catwoman there, you kind of want to give them all their due. So for me, I think it means that we're going to delve into some cool stuff, and I don't want to rush it. So it works for this particular movie, and I'm not really one that goes looking for 3-hour movies. I do like Lord of the Rings, but it's kind of rare where I actually am excited to see a 3-hour movie because, I like my drinks and I got to run to the bathroom. It's a problem. So I hate missing anything. So when it comes to movie theater experiences, I prefer that 2-hour mark is good night.
Yeah, exactly. Papa, what are your thoughts when you first heard that the Batman is 3-hour runtimes, and do you think it works for the comic book / geeky level movie? Obviously, Lord of the Rings being the exception because it's tried and true. We've already had it, but other than that, what are your thoughts on the 3-hour runtime?
I'm definitely a skeptic. I've been a skeptic of this movie since it was announced.
Oh yeah.
I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan too. I love Batman versus Superman, Batman v Superman, until I have to say Martha. Why did you say that name? That is the stupidest thing ever. That movie is way too long. So I definitely have my concerns about this. Jen is right. It looks badass. It looks great. I don't know if they're gonna start off strong at in 2.5 hours of greatness, and then the last 25 minutes. Just some of the stupidest thing. The Riddler is actually Thomas Wayne. Bruce, it's your dad. What the fuck are we doing? No, don't do that. But
I feel like Matt Reeves has earned the right of not having that thought. I feel like he's never done anything in his career that builds up. He's earned. I trust him.
Not if he puts Thomas Wayne as the Riddler.
I know, but I don't. I don't think that's gonna happen though. What the hell, man?
I don't think it will happen either. I'm just saying, if it's a good, I'll be the first one to say this movie is amazing. I'm just I'm not gonna say I'm excited for this movie. I'm very concerned.
There you go.
I need to get Batman.
Malcolm, what were your thoughts when you heard about the runtime?
I'm also one person that's not overly hyped for the Batman. I like what I'm seeing in the trailers. I'm probably going to see it. But that being said, with the runtime, as long as the story earns it, the runtime is, and it doesn't feel like it's 3 hours just for the sake of 3 hours, then I'll be fine with it. I mean, I'm one of those ones. I don't judge movies if they reveal their runtime early. But I mean, it is good to know the runtime because then you can sort of plan out like I can go to this screening because I'm not running late for work after I get out. So, but yeah, and I mean, when it comes to movies, like once again, the same thing applies. Like as long as it earns its runtime, like Avengers Endgame, for example, was one that needed to be that 3 hours, like especially with everything that they did in it. And I think it earned its runtime. So as long as they do it with this one, then I'll be happy.
Yeah, I think with this movie, like I was saying earlier with like Matt Reeves, there's something about like him as a filmmaker that there's nothing within his career that kind of gives me the reserve and the skepticism thinking that he's going to shoe in a bunch of crap. Like the fact that he's even attached to this, like he doesn't need the money. You know what I mean? He didn't just do this just because they were like, oh yeah, here's your chance to shine. Like, no, he did that with Apes. So I feel like he has, some passion behind this. And Robert Pattinson too, with everything that he said, like there's something about like this project that he's not just doing it as a cash grab. You know what I mean? I feel like there's something going. They have a story to tell. So
I don't think Pattinson has ever done a cash grab like after Twilight. Like
exactly.
He is very adverse to the cash grab.
He's taking some risk. And if you see the trailers a lot, like this is the first Batman movie where they actually like utilize the makeup behind the cowl. You know what I mean? So like they're doing things within this movie that I feel like they're taking it seriously. So I guess the only reason that I can justify the 3-hour runtime is just the multiple villains. But I think that with the story that they're telling, most likely, and this is my assumption and my hope is that they're going to tie it in together. And I don't think there's going to be anything like crazy, wild, twisty, like goofy Martha things like you're saying. Which don't get me wrong, I don't mind the Martha thing because their moms are named Martha, you know what I mean? And in the context of that scene, it got
is mine. That doesn't make me Wonder Woman.
No, but
Henry.
In the context of the scene, they were already fighting, and he was just saying, "All right, you're killing me. Please just go save Martha because she's kidnapped at the time." Why'd you say that name? It's just in the context of it. The memes, I really think overdid it, which that's not the point. But what I'm saying is sometimes the internet overtakes the actual context of something in a film, and I think that was a perfect scenario. Don't get me wrong, there are other issues in BVS, but I don't think that one is the one. Like when you brought up that scene only from that movie, I feel like that's just the memes talk, and I don't think that's the actual issue of the movie truly. So this movie, I got faith.
I need to know that Martha, that's whenever BVS like loses all credibility. If you're fighting somebody, you can't stand them, and come to find out, hey, your mothers have the same name. Are you just gonna be like, oh, dude, I love you, we're best
That is not how it
you're
went.
not
I
gonna
feel
care.
like that's what I'm saying. I feel like in the context,
your mother.
It's he loves his mother.
in the context of the film, that is not how it went. What happened in that scene is they're fighting, and he's killing him. His essentially his dying breath is saying, "Hey, go save Martha. Go save." What are you gonna say? Save my mom? And then he's like, "Oh shit, she died. Who's your mom?" You save Martha, at least you have something to go off of. Like it makes a lot of sense in the context of the film why you did it. And since he said the name, and it's not like, oh, this is the first time that they wow, their names are they're always been the same in comic books. It's a coincidence and it's a wild coincidence, but hey, utilize that. That's good writing, honestly. And I never understood that criticism.
I did not sign up for BVS talk. You guys are living in the past. I want to look to the future. I want to talk about the Batman. I want to talk about Pattinson looking like he's going to show up at the We Were Young festival. Like I'm excited for Goth Batman, guys. Come on.
That is true.
In the 80 years of their existence, they've never used the Martha connection as a major plot line because it's a stupid plot line.
No, that is you just making stuff up or you just letting the internet can influence you to be weird. With that said, though, I do actually like that natural transition. Robert Pattinson. So a lot of people, like obviously us within the film community, we've garnered a lot of respect for Pattinson, over the last few years. But there are some weirdos out there that only think of him as the Twilight guy, as the vampire, the twinkly, the shiny boy. Jen, what is your favorite Robert Pattinson role? Not just film, but role performance. And as you guys are waiting, do a little research.
I know. I'm like, I gotta think here because you said it. I'll picture it. It's really pasty looking. Yeah, like I know someone's gonna say Good Times, but I haven't seen it yet, and I know it's phenomenal. I haven't seen it yet.
So I'll go
I gotta
first.
think. I gotta
So
think.
I don't like the movie, but I love his performance in The Lost City of Z. There's something about him being like a bumbling drunk, and then just obviously I love Charlie Hunnam. Jax. That's my son. I named him after Charlie Hunnam from Sons of
Mr.
Anarchy. I didn't twist it enough, but anyway. So I thought I went into that movie, going in and think I'm gonna love it for him. But the only thing I actually truly remember about that is Robert Pattinson. And that's something that, and that's what, 2016, 2016, 2017. So it's one of those where it's like even early before he even really started to break out and, separate himself from Twilight. So like that's one that, like I said, I don't really like the movie. It's got decent reviews, but I don't like the movie. But he is very memorable for that. So Robert Pattinson, and obviously, other ones you guys might bring up. So Jen, did I buy you enough time to shout out?
Yeah, like I scrolled through. I had an initial reaction, then I'm scrolling through. I did really like him in Tenet. That was like the one thing I actually liked about that movie, but it's not my favorite performance. It's got to be The Lighthouse, because I absolutely love him and Defoe in The Lighthouse are so fucking great together. There you go. So, but yeah, like that is a performance that is like simultaneously very eerie, dramatic, but also really hilarious at the same time. Like I love that movie. It kind of walks that really creepy A24 line of you never quite know where it's going to go. So yeah, The Lighthouse for Robert Pattinson. But yeah, like my father is one of those people of like, as soon as he sees him, he's like, oh, it's the Twilight guy. I'm like, there's so many other things. So yeah.
You can give a little more credit than that. Papa,
Yeah.
do you have a performance of Pattinson's that you would like to shout out?
Yeah, I am quickly learning that I have not watched many of his films. I mean, definitely the easy one is to say Goblet of Fire.
My boy.
I just got into the Harry Potter stuff a couple of years ago. And definitely him and Matt, the only one he's in, unfortunately, which is kind of more because he's a pretty cool dude. But I think other than the Twilight movies, I haven't seen any of his other movies.
Damn. So then this conversation is actually directed to you. So listen up, take notes. Malcolm, do you have a Robert Pattinson?
I don't watch movies.
Yeah, I mean, just like Papa, I'm resisting all temptation to not say Goblet of Fire because everyone that knows me knows that I'm a big Harry Potter fan. And I mean, I didn't hate him as Jacob and Twilight. I think he was good in the movie. But that being said, like some of his other ones, like I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of, like Good Time. I didn't enjoy that movie, but he was good in the movie.
You're not technically supposed to enjoy that movie. It's like Uncut Gems. It's meant to like screw with you, and you're kind of it's.
I mean, I know that, but I just thought it was a really boring movie in the first place. I didn't like the movie at all. So, like, even though you might not, even though it's one of those apparently you're not supposed to like, so my 1.5 stars on Letterboxd is earned there.
You just said 1.5 star?
Yeah, wow. As I said, I did not like the movie.
Okay.
That's okay. He's allowed.
All right. No. So that makes this next transition easy. What is a movie, as I'm building myself time to find mine, because I know I have one, but I want to say it right. What is a movie that is highly regarded? It doesn't have to necessarily be quote unquote one of the best movies of all time, but just a good movie, something that is unanimously considered a good movie that you not only don't like, but like you kind of hate, or in Malcolm's regard, where 1.5 stars like that. I feel like that's an extreme. As I'm loading up my letterbox, just to make sure I get a right one. One that I want to say, actually, one I'll say, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. As I'm looking at, it's the one I will admit, the caveat is I do want to revisit it because maybe it's one of the few times that I just wasn't in the right mood. But I watched it with my roommate, and my roommate didn't like it either. And my roommate's not a movie person, don't get me wrong, but with these quote unquote, sappy / heartfelt stories, you would think that they would enjoy it or at least get something out of it, and they didn't either. And what I remember is at the end, I feel like no one really learns anything. They kind of just grow, and I don't know, there's something about it, I just didn't connect with it. And most people that I see who love this movie are either younger, so when it came out it hit them at the right time, which that's fair, or they just kind of connect to like one part and that's like a highlights, you know what I mean? So I don't know, it's one of those, like I said, I will admit that I do want to give it one more chance because I feel like I am the only one in the minority here where it's a lot of people like top 100 or like it's high up on their list of like rom-coms or 2010s, not rom-coms, but coming of age, yeah, etc. And I'm like, wow, not only do I not agree with that, but like the exact opposites. You know what I mean? So that's the one that I for sure easily sticks out, where it's like, that bums me out, because on paper it sounded like a film that was going to really connect with me, and it just wasn't. Jen, do you have one like that where it's like it actually kind of makes you sad that you don't like it, because going in you thought you would?
I had an answer, and then you kept talking, and it changed based on how you started talking, and now I'm just going to piss you off. La La Land.
Oh, let's hear it.
I went in expecting to absolutely adore La La Land, because they were really like building up. It's going to be this grand visual feast with all these like live performances and grand choreographed numbers and everything. And I absolutely love Emma Stone, and Ryan Gosling's amazing. And it never quite got there for me. And for some reason for me, I don't know if it was the theater I was in, but the sound mixing was really weird when I watched it in the theater. And I was like, I cannot understand a single word that they're saying when they're singing. Like, I could not make out words other than like City of Stars, because it's so slow. But like the whole grand opening number, I'm like, sounds fun, but I have no idea what they're saying. But yeah, like, it's just one of those things that I really wanted to like it, and it just let me down. But the answer I was going to say, before you kept adding caveat after caveat on there, I was going to say Blue Velvet. I am not a fan of David Lynch, honestly. And I feel like I should be, just based on like my usual tastes, and it just never quite clicks for me. And this one in particular, Blue Velvet, I was like, I'm just going to get through it, because it always appears on all these lists and everything. I was like, I'm going to get through this, but it's not clicking for me at all. Like, I can at least, like, for Mulholland Drive, I'm like, yeah, I know Naomi Watts is like a fantastic performance and everything. Still not my cup of tea, but I can like appreciate certain moments in it. Blue Velvet, no, not for me.
That's definitely interesting. I've also only seen that one time, but I do remember like not loving it, because Mulholland Drive it was a last minute cut from my top 100. Like, I love that movie, and it's grown on every rewatch, and it just sticks with me. And I've always really liked Eraserhead, borderline loved it. So like the fact that I like really love / like some of his films, it was like, I thought I was going to get more out of it, especially with all the acclaim that it has. But I do remember, like, Dennis Hopper, he's creepy as hell. I remember
he's very creepy. Like, that is the most fascinating thing. Like, that's the thing that stayed in my brain. But I'm like, I don't quite want that. I don't quite want Dennis Hopper staring at someone's nether regions and yelling, "Daddy wants to fuck." Like, I'm not excited about that. So yeah.
Now I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. Thanks, Papa West. What is something?
Welcome to my world.
Exactly. What is something that, either is a well-acclaimed movie that either just isn't for you, or something that really bummed you out going in, you thought you were going to love it, and it just, shocked you how much you did not?
Yeah, the one that really comes to mind for me is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think the reason that movie only gets love is because it's Quentin Tarantino. But
we're just making Henry mad. I like this.
Yeah. I love it.
I love Tarantino. I love most of his films. This one just isn't for me. I don't like Leonardo DiCaprio's character at all. I don't.
Goddamn hippies, get off, man.
I don't like his character. Brad Pitt, kind of enjoyable depending on the scenes. And I love Kurt Russell too. He pops up in there. And I'm like, Kurt, you really didn't need to be in there. It's so long. I think all the stuff with Sharon Tate doesn't need to be there. That's like especially where it gets really boring to me. I will say the part that I love is the very end, whenever the Manson family goes to the Dalton's house, and
the X-rated Home Alone
just has Brandy. Yeah, he tells Brandy to kill him. Starts attacking a couple of them. And then Rick Dalton pulls out the flamethrower and burns that girl in the pool. I will say that part is enjoyable, but unfortunately, when you have a 3-hour and like 30-minute film, and I find joy in 15 minutes, we're not going to have good things to say about the whole movie. Yeah. And
like we said earlier, 3-hour movies are tough.
Yes. Yeah.
That is fair. Well, that one bums me out, but that's honestly, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is one of my favorite movies that I don't have to defend it as much, because I get it. It's you're either all in or you're not. There's really not many people that are meh on it. It's either you just don't buy the quote unquote gimmick, the day in the life / chill vibe, or you're like, yo, these are my BFFs and I want to spend the rest of my life with them. And there's really no in between, and that's kind of what he was going for. So that's the one of the few where I'm like, all right, I don't hate that take. Malcolm, do you have one that truly bums you out?
I mean, honestly, I think Good Time might be it because I was going for my letterbox. And like there really isn't a lot that like I
We
think
brought
it's
up some
really
trauma
quite,
for Malcolm with these
Yeah.
questions.
no. I mean, it just to because I know Jordan mentioned me liking movie 43. I know it's a bad movie. It's 1.5 star. I got movie 43 as 1.5 stars as well. But it's a bad
I don't
movie. I
agree.
enjoy
4
watching.
stars, pretty great.
But that being said, I did see another one which is quite often highly regarded among Christmas movies, which I really don't get, and that's Bad Santa. That is a movie which seems to get a lot of praise. Like a lot of people have it in their top 10 of Christmas movies. I don't get it. I mean, I barely laugh at it myself.
I will. So Bad Santa, that's one I haven't watched in years, but I've seen it enough, like in the past, where like I have a vivid memory of it. Where I'm like, don't get me wrong, I'm also one of the few, and they say this all the time. Comedy is subjective, especially for you, like being, from a different land. Like your take of comedy and like humor in general, just it's different. A lot of people don't like British humor because it's just not the same, and then those are.
Hey,
like,
they're funnier than us. I'm gonna put that out there.
and that's fair, but there's people that disagree. So that's one of the ones. With that said. Bad Santa, I do remember liking some of the stuff. I quote all the time, you want some sandwiches? You know what I mean? I just for no reason, you know what I mean? It's just one of those where it's a blast.
What a quote. So memorable.
It's in the context of oh my God, the context of the film is so important, guys, when it comes to anything with film.
Yeah, that's why it's not a good quote, because it only works in the context of the film.
That's like a good reference.
But in saying that, on that note, because there is one movie that when I first watched it, I didn't like it, but yet I decided to rewatch it last year when I was doing the horror movie ranking episodes, and it actually one that actually went up for me, and I actually started enjoying it, and that's Hereditary. Like when that first came out, I watched it, like I did not like it, and I was like, I'm not going to go back and watch this, but then it's like everyone's going, you're crazy, you don't get it. And honestly, it was actually after I watched Midsommar, which is a really great movie. And it was like I might go back and give Hereditary another shot at some stage. And I did, and it moved up. I mean, I still think Midsommar is better, but I do enjoy Hereditary and will probably buy it myself to have. So.
Okay, yeah, Hereditary tripped at the finish line. Like it was doing so well, and I'm like.
Yeah, on rewatch, I will admit that the last 5-10 minutes are the one thing that's kept it like going down. It still ended up in my top 100, but I will admit, like when it comes to ranking, that is the one nitpick. So that's a good point, Papa. What is a movie that I don't know like your personal preference of film, like in terms of rewatching films and giving second chance, but is there a movie that like similar to him with Hereditary where you're like you either despised it or you just didn't get the hype, and then on rewatch, not necessarily saying you became a stan and a huge fan of it, but you definitely changed your tone and how you thought about it? Do you have an example of something like that?
Yeah, and it's actually one of my favorite movies of all time now, The Shawshank Redemption.
Interesting. Okay, let's hear. Yeah. Can I hear the story? I'm definitely curious.
Yeah. So I actually don't even think I was able to finish it. It was when my oldest, he was a baby, so I was staying home for the day, taking care of him, and I had it on, and I just kept missing pieces of it. And so like that was the biggest thing. I'm like, I don't understand the hype for it. Well, or I don't understand why it's great. Well, of course, whenever you like don't watch most of the movie, you're not gonna be able to get most of it. And so then I'm like, okay. Watch the pieces that you missed. So I watched the pieces but not all together. I didn't watch the entire movie. I just watched. Okay, I missed this piece. I'm gonna watch this. I'm gonna watch this piece. And so just not getting that full viewing, I think, is what really did it. And then I'm like, people say this is a great movie. I don't think it is. I don't remember what it was, but I was just like, I'll give it another try. Why not? And I did, and I'm like, okay, no, I should have watched it like straight all the way through. Yep. No distractions, because it is a beautiful movie, and it made me cry at the end.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, and that's
Yeah.
coming from me. That's my number 2 favorite movie of all time, and that's not. And as everyone knows me, like I don't necessarily go with the hype. So when I say that genuinely. Jen, do you have an example of a movie that on repeat viewings it either became a favorite, maybe like Papa, or just change your thoughts?
I do. This happens a lot with comedies, I think. And for me, it's Anchorman. When I first saw Anchorman, like the character was so like balls to the wall insane that I was like, I don't know if this is quite working for me. And then it's one that every time I go back, I enjoy it even more. So yeah, I'd like that. Like I think that happens a lot with comedy. Of like the more familiar you get with it, like you get really wrapped up in the world. And that particular one is so zany that it definitely like that and Talladega Nights. But Talladega Nights I like from the beginning, but it's just something about Will Ferrell characters. I think the more you see them, it's like you're anticipating the next thing, and it actually builds the comedy for me. So yeah.
Yeah. So that is awesome. I love. Fun fact: Anchorman. I wouldn't say I'm a huge Adam McKay fan. Like I love Step Brothers, Talladega Nights, and the
Yeah.
other guys. But the rest, it's not that. But I do love those movies. So I don't necessarily say I'm a huge his fan. Maybe just a Will Ferrell fan. They just kind of connect. But with that said, Anchorman, I really like, and I've always really liked. I don't have anything negative to say about it. But it's not like a top tier of his comedy. So it's always an interesting conversation when it comes up because I'm like, that's not my favorite of his, but I do like it. So it's like it's always fun when that comes up. For me, it's actually a recent one, and I'm going to talk about it a little more in depth in 2 weeks. And I talked about it a little bit last night with Austin Pesha when we talked about Fincher movies. Alien 3. At the time when I first saw Alien 3, I saw the regular edition, and I saw it while the height of my fandom was very pro aliens. As time has gone by, I have switched that narrative, and I am a massive Alien fan now, and low-key don't really like aliens that much. Like it's kind of weirdly shifted where I'm like I'm not an action guy, and that movie take the action out of it, which is awesome. I will say is there's not really much to it. There's not as much depth. Whereas an Alien, it is an atmospheric movie that is fantastic. So when I rewatched Alien 3, Austin recommended I watch the special edition, and it's longer and it just does a little bit more. There's just more depth to it, and it completely flipped. It went from a 1-star movie to a 4-star movie. Like this is a good movie. Like I was like, wow, I am shocked. Like everything that I love about Alien, there's a little sprinkles of it in Alien 3. Like don't get me wrong, the CG when the actual alien itself is animated and it's a little choreographed little looks like a turd with legs. That's weird looking. It doesn't hold up. But honestly, that's not as much it's not in the movie as much as I kind of remembered on initial viewing. It just stood out like a sore thumb the first time I saw it. They're the my favorite scene, like probably in the entire movie, and honestly it's like top 3 in the entire Alien franchise, is the scene when it's on the post or some of the poster screenshots we see where it's Ripley, her bald head, and she's kind of off the side and the alien's over there and she's sweating and it's got the saliva. Holy cow. Like especially once again in the context of the film, it just amplifies it even more because that is terrifying. And it's one of those where it's like I've been saying this now for the last yesterday, and I think even one show before there's a trivia or whatever, and I'm also going to say in 2 weeks when we rank Alien vs Predator, give Alien 3 a second shot. Watch the special edition, and don't be afraid of that length because everything that you do add on to that movie, it actually warrants it. It's similar to like the BVS, the Ultimate Cut, where it's like, it's more, but it somehow ties it together, and it's, it actually flows better. It's ironic that more is better. Like you don't get that often, and this is one of the few cases. So I'm not necessarily saying it's going to be your favorite movie of all time or even your favorite Alien movie, but I promise you it'll probably at least go up half a star if you watch that special edition and go in, thinking an Alien sequel, not an Alien sequel. So take the drama with the Newt and the Hicks character, take that little out there, it is what it is, just it is what it is, and then go in and watch Alien 3 on its own, and I will admit that it went up. So
I mean, more Charles Dance is never a bad thing. So,
he's fantastic. And then Durning, is that his name, the dude from,
I think so,
from Rudy, he's also really great. And I mentioned this yesterday when I was talking to Pez. There's something about the movie where it's just a bunch of creepy men who are murderers and rapists who look at
big manly men.
Hey, what should we do? You know what I mean? It's I don't know, it's something about, and that's coming from early 90s where it's like it's not the whole today's day and age where that's just they're forcing it. That's just part of how it is because Ripley has earned that shit. You know what I mean? I love that. So Malcolm, what is a movie character? Because that's where I'm a transition. I love my transition. What is a movie character where, regardless of the quality of the film, it just stands out where you're like, this movie character is awesome, similar to like Ripley from Alien 3, where it's like you may not love Alien 3 or whatever, but the movie character really stands out. So maybe in a franchise, what is one of your favorite movie characters from some franchise where it's like they are awesome, but maybe they're not the standout of the film, or the films aren't as great? Do you have an example?
Honestly, I can't think. I don't.
I
have
do
anything
if
in
you
my
need
mind.
time.
Go ahead, Jen. Yeah, there's no order. Go ahead, Jen.
I'm gonna pull up the very obvious answer because when you bring up sometimes there's really shitty movies, but they're always good, and that's Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. Because like no matter what, he's always pitch perfect. Like bad script, good script, he is in it 100% locked in. He knows what he's doing with this character, despite what's going on around him. So it's always a pleasure to see him, and I'm very glad that you got to see him go out with such a great movie as Logan. So
that is a good example. One that I'll say, it as a massive as I maybe build you guys some time. If you don't have one, I'll move on. But I'll build them sometime. I'm a huge Rocky fan, and Paulie is one of those characters where he's so annoying, and he's such a jackass, and he's a hindrance to Rocky's character. But he's critical. You know what I mean? He really adds layers to each individual story, because he either forces Adrian to go on a date with Rocky in the first one, and they end up falling in love, or in the second one he's kind of helping him out a little bit. In the third one he's kind of just being honestly, he's building Rocky to like, hey, I don't want to be like you. And in the fourth one he's like, oh, put me on your team. The fifth one, he's the reason that the entire fifth one happens. And I'm a huge fan of Rocky 5, so I'm the only one who will actually defend it on that. But with that said, there's something about Paulie where it's like, sure, if you take him out of the series, you might be a little less annoyed, but that's kind of the point. And like, there's movie characters and franchises that aren't necessarily the most lovable, but they are extremely important. And I feel like Paulie is a great example of that, where it's like, and also you got to realize, and this is a good example. Like, obviously we're not necessarily talking about TV shows, like from Game of Thrones. Oh my God, Joffrey. Like, you have to really have a great performance to be hated that much. You know what I mean? Like or like Umbridge in Order of the Phoenix. Or a lot of people, Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest. That's one of the few where like she is definitely well known. But like, you sometimes have to be that amazing to be that hated. So Jake. For 30 minutes. I love the Loki or the Ragnarok in the background. I love it.
It's my notification tone on my phone.
I mean, that's a good answer too.
It's true. Papa, do you have anything that fits the criteria of the last two things I kind of brought up? If not, I'll make it easy transition.
Yeah. Can I bring up the Yautja alien, which is the Predator?
Okay.
I love the Predator franchise. It's one of those guilty pleasures of mine. I love all of them except for the last one, the Predator, just where you have that weird hybrid monster that gets a little over the top for me. But all the other ones, like, that creature is badass.
Yeah.
Especially like, whenever he like flexes his arm and then the blades come out, or he has the gun on there. No matter how bad the movies are, like those creatures are crazy.
Yeah.
That
you
sound
never want to see
too.
one. Mm-hmm. And just coming out of nowhere too. I mean, you can like always see where they are just because of the weird effects, but just imagining being in that situation where
that's more for the audience. That's not necessarily for the characters in the
Mm-hmm.
movie. It's definitely camouflage. Yeah, you're right. It's creepy as hell and scary.
Yeah.
Malcolm, do you have one? That was a great example, actually. Wow. Now that you think about it.
Yeah, I've actually thought of two. Just go back to Twilight again. Bella's father, Charlie, is probably one of the better characters in that. Like, Billy Burke does a great job being like a stern father figure in there, and I think he's a great character regardless of the quality of the movies. Which, let's face it, I mean, based with the books that they're based on, I mean, you can't really be surprised that the movies aren't that great in the first place. But that being said, the other one,
you are not wrong.
But that being said, the other one I actually did just think of just now is, like, last week in preparation for spy movies of the 2010s, I watched all the Joseph Bourne movies because obviously at least the last two fell in that decade. But I wanted to watch them all in order anyway. But Jeremy Renner's character in The Bourne Legacy, I think, is a really interesting character. And while yes, he's only in The Bourne Legacy, but a lot of people go, "Oh, The Bourne Legacy is the worst in the franchise," and all that. I mean, like, I didn't hate any of the Bourne.
I like it too.
I mean, I like Bourne Legacy and even Jason Bourne, but and I would like to see another movie in the franchise where like Bourne and Renner actually do meet. I would think there'll be make for an interesting storyline. Whether or not that's possible, I don't know, but I think Jeremy Renner does a great job in the movie.
That is a lot of fun. That makes me come up with a good idea. What is a movie character who the character now is older that like you would want to see them return? And honestly, we're just being honest here. This is how Hollywood works. They're older now, so they can't do the job anymore. So they're gonna mentor someone to essentially replace them, similar to like Jason. So in this example, Jason Bourne mentors Jeremy Renner, and in this hypothetical, he trains him. Do you have a character like that where it's like? So I'll give you an example, and you can steal this if you've actually seen the movie. I haven't seen it, but I saw a clip where Keanu Reeves was asked, "What is a movie character you want to bring back to the big screen?" And he was like, "Constantine." That's the one that comes to mind. And I haven't seen Constantine, so I can't really vouch for it. But like the fact like he said in his mind, and then I don't remember who interviewed him, but he was like, "You can make it happen." He's like, "Trust me, I've tried. They're not going to do it." And like you just see in his eyes, you're like the passion behind it. You're like, that is awesome. So do you guys have a character where we're now, or you know, obviously even Logan, you know, for example, you know, there's many words like Malcolm. Do you have one like that? I know you like a lot of.
In saying that, on that note of Constantine, I'd like to see them do another follow-up movie where Constantine is mentoring a young one, and the young Constantine just is Matt Ryan, who played Constantine in the TV series. To combine both the movie and TV together, I think that's not going to happen. But
that is something that they're low key. If you really think about it, a lot of people are doing that nowadays, where it's like they're either making TV shows based on movies and they're kind of just ripping it off, or they're doing the opposite where they're making movies off TV shows. But I feel like they're not like, hey, we can't combine them. I really feel like they're really starting to get into that. Let's talk about it. You know what I mean? It's getting there.
Just to sidetrack a little bit, they did do that briefly in Crisis on Infinite Earths on CW, because they did have Ezra Miller's Flash face to face with Grant Gustin's Flash in that crossover. Not much was done from it, but they did have that crossover on TV. But that being said, for me, and I'm actually going to go back to Harry Potter here. Like, I would like to see them do either a movie adaptation of The Cursed Child, and have like Daniel Radcliffe as an older Harry Potter mentoring his son, or a completely new trilogy in which Harry Potter is sort of mentoring his son, or even a whole new cast of characters. I think
he can become a professor. You can really just put him as a professor, because he loves just the concept of Hogwarts. I've definitely be down for that. I like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of those ones where the people actually want it now because of certain comments or certain franchises that have not being that great. Even though I do enjoy the last two, but yeah.
Yeah, Papa, did you come up with, or Jen, whichever one, did either of you come up with them?
I have a good thought.
All right, let's hear it, Papa.
Kind of stealing off of yours, Henry, with Keanu Reeves, except we're gonna go into the world of Point Break.
Yes, I was like, that was one of my things. I was like, Johnny Utah, come on back.
Yes.
You retired, so you got to bring me back. One last job.
Mm-hmm. Or like he's mentoring another police officer, and the police officer is having a very similar situation, bank robberies, and I think it'd be hilarious if he's like, Johnny, it's so similar to yours, and Keanu's like, no, it's not the same. I had surfers, you have skateboarders. These are not the same.
It's a whole other world, man.
Yeah.
But do you like bring in like Jake Busey to like pick up where Gary left off, or like?
Interesting. Like, yeah, there's definitely something there. So Point Break, before I let Jen pick her pick, Point Break is one of those movies that, similar to what I was talking about earlier with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's not the same vibe, don't get me wrong, but it's one of those types of movies where you're either all in or you're just not. You either have to buy what they're selling, or you are anti. You are either Point Break fans or you're Kirk. Like, there's really no in between. You know what I mean? It's one of those where it's like you either love it or you hate it. And I
think once you hit the scene where they try to do the drug bust on the house where Tom Sizemore is, and Keanu gets his ass kicked by the naked woman in the shower, like that's the moment of are you liking this? It's like, if you're not, you should turn it off now.
Yeah, but honestly, no, I just had a great idea though. The guy can be a quarterback from Purdue. Because Johnny Utah was Ohio State. They're both Big Ten schools, but Ohio State is much better than Purdue. Like, dude, you went to Purdue. We're not the same.
As an Indiana native, that's hilarious.
He's trying to live up to the glory of Johnny Utah, and Keanu's like, "You can't. We're not the same. Just stop it."
And then it's one little thing because he talks to me. He's like, "Do you even have the discipline? Do you even take the skin off your chicken?" No, I eat all of it. It's like little things like that. You can just have fun little things, right? Just Keanu Reeves. If you watch Matrix Resurrections, Keanu Reeves is all in on the joke now. Similar to Nicolas Cage and Keanu Reeves need to make a movie where they are just full meme because they know what they're doing right now. Jen, what is one you got?
See, the trouble is, like, so many of these, I'm like, the ones that I want to see, they kind of are happening or have happened already. Like personally, the thing that I originally was like, oh, the one I'd like to see the most is Galaxy Quest, which is like on again, off again, like maybe happening, maybe not. Last year they said it is happening. Who knows? But I think there's so much to play with there, just on the whole meta of reboots and new casts and young casts and stuff like that. So I'm really excited if that actually does happen. Indiana Jones is one of my favorite characters of all time. So yeah, I always love to see Harrison whenever he puts on the hat, but it is time to pass the torch. And I think that is going to kind of happen with the upcoming one. Who knows? But one that hasn't been brought up, and personally, I'm rooting for this one because this actor deserves better, is one of my favorite movies of the 90s. And I think of a lot of people in our community is The Mummy. I would love to see Brendan Fraser get on a treadmill a little bit first. And then him and Rachel Weisz can go and do another adventure. Like, we can pretend Mummy 3 didn't happen. That's fine. And we can pretend that Tom Cruise didn't happen. Remember when they were going to do the Monsterverse? Remember that? It was a whole thing. But no, I'd love to see, like, Rick and Evie go for one more outing. And just because Brendan deserves better. Like, he's such a great actor and he's such a nice person. And I want to see him get something that everyone beloved like him. So, yeah.
So I'm gonna trust you guys on this one. I ordered a pizza and it's here. You guys talk about The Mummy for a minute. I'm gonna pay for it. I'm gonna be muted so my dogs don't bark in the background. Riff on The Mummy for a minute and have some fun. I really feel like you guys have some good ideas, and I will actually watch the replay later. And I trust you guys. So enjoy. Talk about The Mummy for a minute.
All right, so it's time to talk shit about Henry.
Yeah, because I was when Henry first brought this up, I was like, wait, what if we do like the Scorpion King? Bring back The Rock, kind of. He has kids.
I mean, I would get lost in the weeds because, like, I know there were a lot of direct-to-video kind of things. I think we could just pretend it didn't happen. And
never
watched any of them. But I love the Scorpion King. I'm all for that.
Would we finally bring back?
I mean,
Alex,
on the note of Brendan,
would we bring back Alex, the guy who plays their son?
Yeah, I liked little Alex. I know some people thought he was a little shit, but you could cast anybody there, honestly. So it doesn't necessarily have to be him, because I'm sure he looks completely different now, however many years it is from now. So yeah, because I forget who they cast in Mummy 3, which doesn't exist in my mind. So like, I know he was there, but it was some random person. So yeah.
I have a good idea. Who is an actor? Because I feel like this is something Malcolm's about to hear in the background. Who is an actor from the 90s who had a predominant run, similar to Brendan Fraser, that you would want to see make a comeback?
I mean,
Henry, we were talking about something else. You can't just.
For me, Mike Myers is probably alongside aside from Brendan Fraser, who is starting to make a comeback now. I think Mike Myers is the one that's not really doing anything. Although
he's got that Shrek
he's
money.
in that Scorsese. I think he's in that Scorsese movie coming out this year, Killers of the Flower Moon, or so.
I think you're right.
I think,
Yeah, and honestly, the last time I saw him, like, is what, Inglourious Bastards for like a second. So
for who, Mike Myers?
That was the last movie he did.
No, he Bohemian Rhapsody.
Well, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh yeah.
So kind of here's a good question. It's a double question. What are your thoughts on the movie Crash, and what are your thoughts on the fact that Brendan Fraser was in that movie? Because that's the first thing I thought of when you think of not Mummy, Brendan Fraser. Jen, what are your thoughts on Crash?
That's where you go. You don't go George of the Jungle, a pure joy to watch. Instead, you go to
Crash.
Crash.
So I want to
What
hear
is
your
wrong
guys'
with you?
opinion. Spoiler alert.
Earhead.
You don't go to Airheads, Insano Man, like Blast from the Past, any else, like even the fucking Looney Tunes.
I want to
movie.
talk about
Like,
Crash.
Looney Tunes back in
I don't
action.
wanna talk about
Yeah,
Crash.
Well,
Can
apparently
we talk
everyone,
about
guys,
Blast
they
from the
hate
Past
Crash. So
instead?
we hate Crash, okay?
I mean, I haven't seen Crash. And
I
that's
watched
when
it once. It is very much a melodrama, like over the top. I think of all the like, there's so many people in it, but of the people that are in it, I think Michael Pena was the one that stood out to me the most for whatever reason. I don't even remember what
that's the one that
happens.
made me cry. That worked.
Well, then that's probably why it stuck in my mind. But like everything else, I'm like, I just didn't care. So yeah, I'm not a fan of Crash.
Okay, so
I mean,
I'm reading the comments right now. Here's a good one. Jackie Chan.
That's an excellent one. Yeah.
How would Jen, what is the first type, or it could be anything within the last 10 years, so not put you on the spot too much. What is a movie you can either have inserted him in the last 10 years where he would have been a good spot for that, or what is generally speaking a type of movie you would want to see Jackie Chan make a return for?
Oh man, I would love to see Jackie in the MCU, like because he has that kind of energy of he is an entertainer and he's gonna put 100% into anything he does, and he's gonna do his own stunts. So like, yeah, like he's a funny guy. Like I absolutely love Rush Hour, and I think he has that good quality that he would mesh into anything, honestly, that they have. Like now MCU is kind of going off the rails now in terms of that kind of feel. So it's kind of a shame because he wouldn't quite fit. Like maybe Guardians, he could fit into Guardians very well, I think. So yeah, I'd
Pair
love to
him
see
up
that.
with Stallone with those similar characters and kind of
Yeah, like I'd love to get more younger eyes on Jackie, because I'm like, I feel like he hasn't really done anything in a while. He actually had more of a dramatic turn with that one like a couple of years ago. Yes. Like where I was like, good, he did a good performance, but that's not what I think when I think Jackie Chan. I think like fun, exciting, creative kind of fights. So yeah. Yes, very much so. Like the bus scene is very much like Jackie. That's all his kind of stuff. He loves doing the little flip around, weird, tiny spaces and everything. And he loves to get hurt, which is one of my favorite things about him as an action star. So many people nowadays, not going to name any names, they have it in their contracts of they can't get their asses kicked too much. Meanwhile, Jackie Chan, always okay. He don't give a shit.
Drop.
You can hit him as many times as you want.
Let's hear it. Who?
They're all in Fast and the Furious, okay?
Oh, dude. Vin Diesel. Why you got a name drop in my like that? My guy, family. So what I will say is, I just I'm preparing for a movie Battleground. I rewatched Mortal Kombat, and there's just something about that movie that I like the movie, and I'm watching people's reviews, and I'm like, I just don't see, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's a masterpiece, I'm not saying it's that, but I think it does exactly when you sign up for a Mortal Kombat movie, like this is the best version of it, hands down, and I just don't understand the like people that are like pooping on it, and that doesn't make any sense. But with that said, Jackie Chan, I feel like there's a role, or like Shang-Chi, where it's like there's a role where you can have him in that mentor role, kind of we were talking about earlier, or you bring him back and you bring him into that role where it's like, obviously past his prime, he's not going to be able to do what he used to do, and that just is what it is, but that doesn't take away what he knows up here and what he can teach.
I mean, Tom Cruise is still flying fucking jets. I think Jackie can still kick some ass.
I will say, Jackie Chan was born in 54. Tom Cruise, I feel like he was born like 64. I feel like there's a 10-year gap.
Well, Tom Cruise is an alien, so yeah.
Yeah, that is awesome. Minus or 62. So it's only 8-year difference. What I feel you.
How you doing?
But yeah, I mean, on that note, because I was just actually looking up Jackie Chan's filmography, he's done a lot in the past 10 years. Like, but it's mostly like Asian, like Chinese movies and like.
Yeah, he kind of gave up on Hollywood, which is a shame.
I mean, he was in the Lego Ninjago movie, Nut Job 2, Nutty Boy.
That's true, and it was a mentor role, so.
So yes, we do revert back to the paychecks thing we were talking about earlier. He's getting his paychecks. Jackie Chan,
I mean, but yeah, I mean, I like when I went to see Shang-Chi, I was half expecting him to pop up somewhere in the movie.
Frontier Eternals, and that's just one of those where it's like not even just he's an Asian actor, but like just based on the material of those films, like Shang-Chi is specifically martial arts. the Eternals kind of has that wisdom, and like, you know, we're you don't think of it, but like, you know, Jackie Chan has plenty of roles where he provided that wisdom and the mentorship, and I really feel like two of those, that's a missed opportunity that they didn't have him in there. So that is a great shout out.
But that being said, is I don't think he was in any of them, but I probably would have inserted Jackie Chan into one of the Expendable movies with Stallone.
I was gonna say, I almost said he
Jet Li
should
was
be in
in it.
there, but was he? He may have been.
I don't think so.
I know
Jet
Jet
Li was.
Li was.
Jet Li was there, but
So now I kind of want to end it. We have about 9 minutes left, so I want to come up with at least one good conversation.
Because this has all been shit. Okay.
No, this has been great, but I'm talking about like one through line where we end on a one where we get a consistent one. So Mortal Kombat, it's kind of what I was talking about earlier. When I touched, I'm not saying Mortal Kombat, but just the transition. You know, trust me, guys, trust me. So Mortal Kombat, a movie that came out within the last year, and I really don't feel like people formulated their own opinion. So within the last 2 years, in terms of, you know, whatever, they let the internet, I really do feel like the internet has more influence on people than they really like to admit based on like reviews and stuff. People are like, oh, I really like that, 4 stars. Man, a lot of people are giving it like 2 stars or 3 stars. I'll give it a 3. And that I feel like that's sad. But with that said, The Invisible Man from 2 years ago is a movie that I feel like is like one of the most like affected film of the entire pandemic because of just it's on paper a studio horror film, but first of all, at this point, those are the most popular. You know what I mean? Those are the ones that, you know, are getting butts and seats, you know, nowadays. But it's made in a, you know, independent / very well thought out horror. Lee Winnell, obviously, you know, he knows what he's doing. So what is a movie within the last like 2 years that you kind of want to like shout out where you're like, wow, this is a movie that just is under the radar, and it's like I really am happy that the pandemic pumped it out, but I'm sad that it came out during the pandemic. So The Invisible Man is mine because any chance I can get, I'll shout that out movie because, you know, that movie it's got, you know, fantastic cinematography. It's got an amazing score. The leads are great. Like it does exactly what you want, but it separates itself from like the original source material. Like kind of what I was talking about earlier with Mortal Kombat, where it's like, you know, I keep bringing it up, but it's just fresh because I was just, you know, watching it. But like when you watch that movie, it's nothing like the 90s version or, you know, both 90s versions, you know, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. It separates itself from the video game movies, at least, you know, even. So it's like, it's one of those where it's like, you know, it may not be what you expected, or you're letting your friends influence you on your opinion on it. But like, it's one of those where it's just like, you know, it's great. And Invisible Man is a movie that I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, it's just studio horror film. I already know what to expect. And I don't know. It's just one of those where I feel like not enough people have talked about Invisible Man in the last 2 years. And it really bums me out because it's one of my favorites. Jacob, do you have one like that where it's like, I know you're like hit or miss when it comes to like newer films in terms of like watch, but has there been one like that where you don't hear people talk about it, but you're like, wow, this movie was awesome?
One that I don't hear talked about a lot is the new Wrong Turn movie that came out. I believe it was January of last year. Of course, when you think of Wrong Turn, you think of inbred hillbilly cannibals killing random people for no reason. And this actually like did a complete 180. It's a random tribe of people living in the Appalachian Mountains. They're not killing people, they're just trying to live their life. And then there are a group of hikers who fall into their traps that are meant for animals. One ends up dying from it. And then it starts out as a huge misconception. They end up getting in trouble. I'm not going to give up the entire movie, but like there are no inbred hillbilly cannibals in it, except for a little fun nod when the main character, when they're talking about watching a movie, and she's like, oh well, as long as there's no hillbillies, I'm fine. So kind of like a nice fun nod to it. But like I haven't heard a lot of talk about it just in general. In fact, the only thing I heard about it was, I believe it was Collider's Facebook page earlier this month. It was like, what was the best horror movie to come out last year? And their picture for Wrong Turn was a picture of one of the cannibals from the normal Wrong Turn movie. It was the one who's been in like all of them. And so I think that was, most people were expecting just those slasher movie, like what's always been there, and it really wasn't. It was very different. And also, fantastic ending scene. It's one of those cool scenes where the credits are rolling and they're still playing the scene. So for that alone, you should watch it.
Well, I never in a million years would consider it, but now just based on you and I like you, I'm gonna give it a shot. Jen, did you come up with one?
You like me?
You like me.
That's the thing. Like the last 2 years, like I have no sense of time right now. So I've been looking up like what came out, and honestly, the thing that comes to mind for me, because I haven't seen that much because I haven't been going to the movie theater that much. But the thing that I think was mostly affected by the pandemic for me is The Last Duel. There has been a lot of talk about The Last Duel, but not in the way that it deserves. I think if this was a normal kind of year, it would easily be one of like the awards contender kind of things, because it's a name director, big stars, up and coming stars, like it's people you know, and it's a good script. It's shot very well. It's very interesting. Production value is really high. It's a really interesting set design. So yeah, like I really enjoyed the movie. It's one of my favorites of the year for last year. And yeah, I just think that if it was a normal release schedule, people would be going to the movies regularly, and that would be something that would get more buzz for the right reasons, instead of people saying, oh, it's like a movie about rape, so I'm not going to go kind of thing. And they all have opinions without actually seeing the movie. So I would highly recommend it. I think it's on HBO Max right now. If you haven't seen it, I think it is still there for a limited time. It's almost leaving, I think. So that's one that I would definitely recommend. Other than that, it's something that has been talked about, but I'm looking through. I'm like, is there something else? I like. There's always these under the radar kind of movies. Like Belfast is starting to get some buzz in terms of award stuff. That's a movie that I went into not knowing anything about it, other than Kenneth Branagh directed it, and I had a lovely time. It's a great film, so I highly recommend that one. And one the other day I saw just randomly on Prime, because I hate Prime. Because I hate scrolling through Prime. It's like my least favorite streaming service, because I hit the free to me and then I want to search something and then it goes back to everything you have to pay for, and I hate it. But something that so usually when I watch Prime, I see someone I recognize and then I'll read the thing. And I recognize, I'm a big Game of Thrones fan, so I recognize Jaime Lannister, Nikolai Coster-Waldau, and Annabelle Wallis from Peaky Blinders are in a movie called The Silencing, which is like a very tight 90-minute kind of thriller in like Appalachia or something, and I would recommend it. I had fun with it the other day, so that's one that I'm sure people haven't heard of, because I was like, I have no idea what this movie is. I think it just came out in the last year. So The Silencing.
There you go.
On Amazon Prime, if you can freaking find it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's what I love. Amazon. Malcolm, finish them off. Do you have one movie that you want to talk about that within the last year or two where it's just like, I want to give a shout out?
Yeah, I mean, on that note, a lot of the Amazon Prime originals do tend to go under the radar because of the reason Jen said. Like,
I hate it.
But that being said, one that I don't think was talked about a lot, I know a lot of people saw, is the new remake of Emma. And I think a lot of people, like, there's a lot of people when it comes to period movies, like, oh, it's a movie of the time, like, it's a remake, it's like all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to say it. This is a really good movie. It's like really faithful, and it's just one of those ones. Like, Anya Taylor-Joy is really great in the role, and like even when you got like Bill Nighy as well, like he's always a delight. It's just really good, and like I really wish it got some love at the Oscars, because I think Anya Taylor-Joy should have been in for Best Actress, but unfortunately, with the Oscars doing the whole release mess around, like it just was out way too early. It just lost steam by the end of it. But yeah, there's not just like Jen, there's not a lot I can think of that really wasn't talked about enough in the last years or the year before. I think
those are some great examples, and I really like that. Though the one you talked, the Amazon one, and even Emma, like on paper, that's not for me. But like I said, I'm open to suggestions. So Emma,
that's the thing. On paper, that is for me. I have, like, Emma is my favorite Jane Austen, and I love Anya Taylor-Joy, and I do like the original. Well, and I don't know if there's other iterations, but the Gwyneth Paltrow version, I really enjoy that one. But for whatever reason, I just haven't sat down and watched it. I think because I'm the only one that wants to watch it. That's usually what happens, and I get vetoed when we want to watch.
That's
stuff.
what 2020. That's what 2020 and 2021.
That's one of those things. I think it's still on HBO Max though, so it's been sitting in my watch list for a very long time. So I will get to it eventually.
Bump it up. There you go. Prioritize it. So with that said, that was an episode of the Confidential Roundtable. We went through it. You guys dealt with me ordering pizza. By the way, well worth it. This pizza was amazing. Extra cheese, chicken, mushroom, banana pepper, and a little bit of hot sauce. So
Nice.
Jen, Papa, and Malcolm, make sure you check out everything that Malcolm does over on Take 3 with Rankum and Full Metal Random and Classic. And then make sure you check out everything that Jen's going to be doing. We're going to see her. Trust me, we're going to see her. Just spam her name everywhere that you think you need to spam Jen's name in, and she'll show up. And Papa West, make sure you check out everything he's doing with TMG, with singles and teams, specifically singles right now because he doesn't want to give me and Jay another teams match. With that said, Henry Confidential, Jen.
After yours, would you want to be in another one?
Yes.
That was a shit show. Come on.
It was amazing. We won. Jen Kemp, Papa West, Malcolm, Golden Lay, and Henry Confidential. This was Confidential Roundtable, and this was a blast. We're out.
Nice to meet you.